I planted a big blue hosta from my father-in-law's garden right next to my back step. It should have thrived. It didn't. And that's when I realized just because something works beautifully in one garden doesn't mean it will become the same thing in your garden. The spot that had been perfect for him wasn't perfect for me. Sometimes the garden shows us something we can't borrow. Not the plant, not the arrangement, not even the way it looks when it's fully grown and settled in. We can admire it. We can be drawn to it. We can even choose to bring it home and plant it in our garden. But we can't just bring it home and expect it to become the same thing. And if you pay attention long enough, the garden starts to reveal something. Not about plants, about the way we notice other gardens, other lives, and the ways we try to recreate something that was never going to come together the same way in our own circumstances, in our own space. And maybe it's not about getting it right, but about understanding what it takes to make something work in your garden versus theirs. Before we go any further, let me introduce myself. I'm Michelle, and this space is a lot like gardening. Some things take hold right away, others take time, and a few surprise us. Hostas, gardens, friendships. If you're craving a quieter, more reflective way to think about gardening, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Subscribing makes it easier to return. And lately, I've been noticing how often we're drawn to something beautiful, and we assume it will become the same thing right here in our own gardens. The blue hosta, as I said, came from my father-in-law's garden. It was big and established, the kind that was completely settled and thriving where it was. I didn't know the name, but we dug a division, carefully, respectfully, almost like we were carrying something more than just a plant. We brought it home, and I planted it right next to my back step, because that's where it was in his garden. Same feeling, same intention. It was full shade. It should have worked, but it didn't. The hosta didn't die. It didn't fail outright. It just stayed smaller than it should have. Leaves never quite reached, colors never quite deepened to that beautiful blue. And I kept thinking, maybe next year, because sometimes that's what plants do. They take time. But over time, I started to notice the soil. It was dry, even after rain. The overhang from the roof at my house, the shade from the maple tree, but also blocked the rain. Yes, it was shade, but it wasn't the same kind of shade. And that's when it shifted for me. Not all at once, just a quiet realization, standing there looking at that blue hosta that should have been beautiful. I had placed it based on where it made sense at his house, not where it worked at my house. And once you notice something like that, it's hard not to see it everywhere. I've always found those garden-in-a-box kits interesting. They arrive with everything laid out, 10 plants, 20 plants, maybe more. All chosen to work together, and then there's a plan included, a diagram where each plant goes, how far apart, how much space do they need, what will it look like when they fill in. It's tidy and ordered, reassuring in a way, because you don't have to decide anything. You just follow the plan. And sometimes it really does come together. But other times, a season passes and something feels off. Maybe a plant disappears. Something stretches too far. One plant gets too big, another one doesn't really get big enough. Something never quite fills its space. You look at it because you followed it exactly, and it still doesn't come together the way you expected. I see it walking through town too. Those hanging baskets attached to the old-fashioned light posts. Alyssum spilling down easily 2 feet, soft and full, moving in the breeze like it was made for that space. Our climate isn't warm enough, long enough for alyssum to get that big. It must have been started someplace warm, someplace bright, and someplace early before our weather got warm. And it's not just that one plant. There were dozens in that planter, all working together, all beautiful, color layered into color, nothing fighting for space. And I stand there a moment longer than I meant to, because it's not just pretty, it feels complete. And I see the same thing online too. Garden tours, perfect angles, everything full, settled, glowing in the right light. It's easy to forget. I'm seeing a moment, not the maintenance behind it. Further down the main street, it's Washington Avenue for me, we have those large round plantings, 5 feet across, massive elephant ears rising up, maybe coffee cups or Waikiki, surrounded by everything that seems to move with them. A dozen plants in harmony, not crowded and not empty either, just right. There are gardens tended by our local garden club. At the Kiefa's house, oh, the incredible hydrangeas. The Plantagenea Hosta with the most beautiful scent you can smell from the sidewalk. Along Mill Street, near the Quilt Museum, the gardens are always clean, always fresh, always beautiful, even up close. Maybe you notice the details. Probably you don't, because they're already taken care of. Deadheading is done before you even think about it. Watering, often daily, done before anything shows signs of stress. They're not just planted, they're kept. And it's beautiful. It really is. But those gardens are being cared for by teams of people every single day. They're not just planted, maybe watered when dry, and left to their own devices. Those community gardens are manicured by members of the community. I think about my own garden differently, knowing that. The places that started to feel right weren't the ones I planned the most. They were the ones I adjusted, moved a little, watched a little longer, maybe paid a little extra attention to what was actually happening, not what I thought should happen. Even with hostas, some settle in right away, others take time to find their place. Same plant, different response, depending on where they land in your garden. If you're starting to notice something quiet, a garden doesn't come together because everything is right. It comes together because you adjust. You adjust the light and the water and the effort and the nutrition. You adjust the location until the planting, the arrangement, the specific cultivar works for your garden. And that takes time to see. A season, sometimes more. You try something, you watch it, you notice what holds and what doesn't. It's not a failure. It's information about your garden, about your soil, about your light, your space. There was a moment at the nursery that stayed with me too. A customer stopped in running an errand for his wife. He had been sent for echinacea, and I didn't have any. None left. So we stood there for a minute looking at what was available. I suggested Heliopsis, false sunflower. Similar conditions, same kind of presence in the garden, just not quite as common. I told him, you might want to check with her. He didn't. He looked at them for a minute and decided to take a few home anyway, because he liked them. And later that day, his wife reached out. She loved them and wanted more. She had been looking for something specific, and he brought home something entirely different that worked in her garden. After enough of those moments, something shifts. You still notice other gardens. You're still drawn to them, but you stop expecting them to translate exactly into your space because you're starting to see your own more clearly. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Maybe that's what the garden is really asking of us, not to recreate something finished somewhere else. Garden tours, magazine spreads, Instagram, but to stay with what's here in our own gardens long enough to understand it. We adjust care, we move plants, we try again. It's gardening. Add something you see and love, and then adjust until it works in your garden. And slowly it begins to feel like it's working. It's not perfect, it's not complete, but it's right. If you've ever stood in your garden and felt that small disconnect, like something should work but does not quite, you're not alone. You're just in the middle of figuring it out. If the garden is where you contemplate what life reveals, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Until the next chapter, in the Hosta Garden.